What up YouTube? Salvador Brakeman here, and today I have a really exciting announcement for you. Sort of in line with my whole goal to be transparent. My goal and my commitment to show you behind the scenes of everything that I'm learning as I'm progressing in my own career, but also to bring you obviously the tricks, the tips, the techniques when it comes to crowdfunding. Today's video is not about crowdfunding. Today's video is not about Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Instead, it's about the look behind the scenes in terms of what actually allowed me to make my career possible. My career as a blogger, as a YouTuber, as a growing online influencer, if you will. One of the very powerful components of that has been podcasting. And if you haven't already, go and check out my podcast in iTunes called Crowdfunding Demystified. I also post different episodes of the show, usually older ones, on this YouTube channel, so you can check them out. But the main show is on iTunes, and it's also listened to on my website. And on that show, if you're familiar, I go through and I bring on guests who have successfully raised money on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, some of these other crowdfunding websites, and really get into like what actually they did to raise funds. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? How can you learn from their advice and their incredible stories? Some incredible, just really mind-blowing stories of people that I've had on the show, like good night stories for rebel girls. As an example of a podcast interview I did where I interviewed this team. They raised like $800K on Kickstarter, and then I see their physical book, the thing they raised money for, in Barnes & Noble. So it's just been an incredible experience for me to be able to talk with some of these entrepreneurs, and also to be able to interact with so many people from around the world. So what I want to do with this video is I want to give you and share with you a resource that you can use to do the same thing. So if you're interested in pursuing a career in online influencer, blogging, podcasting, etc., if you're looking to build up your own personal brand, one way to do that is with podcasting. And when I first got started with podcasting, I was 23 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I sounded very meek. I sounded very unsure and uncertain of myself. At times, my voice was robotic, talking, and interviewing guests, and it was horrible. Like, I can't even believe, honestly, that people would listen to me on this podcast interviewing people, because it just sounded so robotic and so corporate and so disgusting. And then I sort of went to the other end of the spectrum. And if you go and watch some of my other YouTube videos on this channel, like the early videos, you'll see that I have like more of like a salesman, hypey kind of a personality. And I was just shouting at the camera like that. And it was just horrible. It wasn't me. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't exactly who I am. Like, if you meet me in person, I wouldn't sound like that. So what I've learned, and as I've grown as a podcaster, I've settled much more in to who I am. I've been more comfortable about being myself on the show and also on camera, quite frankly. And what that's done, number one, it's led to better quality shows. But number two, as I've grown as a podcaster, I've also learned how to market my shows better. I've learned how to get better guests. I've learned how to get better sponsors. I've learned how to get traffic and downloads for my show. So I've learned a tremendous amount when it comes to the art and the science of podcasting. And it's really simple. You know, you're looking at me, like I'm a guy here who is 26 years old. I'm pretty casual. Like, take a look at my new shirt. It's a Spider-Man shirt in Venom. And this guy, you know, I have a microphone, a very simple Blue Yeti microphone. It was like $100. I conduct the podcast via this and Skype. And through these three things, me, the microphone, and Skype, I am able to reach over 150,000 people. Think about that for a second. Since I started the podcast, I have reached more than 150,000 people. That is incredible. The fact that you imagine 150,000 people in this room They wouldn't fit into this room. They would need like a massive stadium. And pretty regularly, a single episode is reaching thousands of people, which is mind-boggling. It's no different than if you were to get up and speak to a crowd of people, 1,000 people, to be able to have them listen to you for 40 minutes, for 60 minutes, that's just unheard of. It's kind of like you have your own radio station. And ever since I started to get more serious about podcasting, not only has it transformed my career, have I started to earn more income, gain more awareness online, but I've also had people come to me and say, hey Sal, I binge listen to your show. Like, it is great. Every single morning at the gym, when I'm commuting to work, I listen to your show, and it's great because I get like the update on the best crowdfunding tips, and they usually thank me and are so supportive of the show after that. And a lot of the people that have enrolled in my online courses or purchased my books is a result of the podcast. Also other things like blogging and YouTube, etc. But the podcast, to have that level of attention for 60 minutes, think about that. Someone is listening to you for 40 to 60 minutes and they're tuned in to everything that you're saying. It's more powerful than any other type of a medium. And on YouTube, you can upload a 4 or 5 minute video, you're more like me, like a 10 or 15 minute video. But still, that's nothing when it comes to the attention that someone has. While they're working out, they're listening to you, they're getting tips, they're getting education, they're learning a bit about your story, they're learning about the value you can bring. And at the end of that, they feel like they know you. They feel like to a certain degree that you're like one of their friends, or they almost just have a sense of like who this guy is. Even just listening to me now, you have a sense of who I am. You have a sense of my values from seeing my work and the level of effort and dedication that I put into my work. You have a sense of what my personality is like and like what a nerd I am and how geeky I am and how sometimes I try and make jokes that don't go over super well, but I just give you a little bit of a glimpse of my personality by putting myself out there. So if you're interested in any way in becoming an expert in growing your personal brand, in networking with influencers, podcasting is an amazing way to do that. So today, I've been working very hard on this completely new guide for you, and I want to share it with you today. So this is the beginner's guide to podcasting. This is podcasting for beginners. As you go through this guide, you're going to learn how to create, launch, market, and monetize your podcast. So this is taking you, if you've never even heard of podcasting or you played around with it a little bit, this is a great introductory guide. I'm going to take you through a ton of different things. So number one, what is the equipment out there that you should get started with if you're looking to get into podcasting? How do you actually go about generating the idea for your show? How do you come up with a good show idea, whether it's informational or educational or entertaining? How do you come up with a good show idea? That's something that is going to make a massive impact on whether or not your show is successful. And also going into things like, how do you market your podcast? How do you get people to actually listen to it, to download it on iTunes, to spend that 30 or that 40 minutes listening to your show? How do you rope new listeners into your podcast, getting traffic, and also building out other things like your email subscriber list? I share all of that in this guide for you. And of course, I also go into monetization. So it's nice to have downloads. It's nice to be seen and be known online, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters when you're running a business is your revenue. So with this guide, what I do is I show you exactly how much money you can make from podcasting, how much money from sponsorships. You can also monetize in a ton of different ways. I mentioned people discovering myself, online courses, other books I've written, etc. So I take you through all of the different ways that you can monetize your podcast in this guide. And finally, I think that this is sort of goes without saying, but podcasting is one of these things where it's kind of like blogging in 2006, 2007. It's becoming a much more popular thing. More people are starting shows, more people are listening to podcasts. You've heard the success of shows like Serial. In the entrepreneurial realm, there are people like John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn and Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan. There are tons of new podcasts that are coming out, and celebrities that are actually getting in on podcasting because they can see this is the same transition that we had, where one time, we were reading physical magazines like this and books and these different things, and then we started to get more into online publications and news sites and blogs. Start to get more into Kindle and all these different things. The same thing that with radio, while that was once popular, now podcasting is becoming the go-to source with Bluetooth enabled cars, with really great iPhones and great smartphones that allow you to listen to a podcast at the gym and even download it ahead of time so you don't waste your data. There's just so many different reasons why podcasting is the next big thing. Rather than listening to like audio tapes or something like that, or CDs, you're now listening to podcasts. Rather than listening to radio hosts and with tons of commercials just jammed in there and a lot of fluff, you listen to a targeted podcast about something that you care about. And my show is a great example of that. If I was trying to launch a radio show, there wouldn't be enough people that are interested in just crowdfunding to do that. But because I have podcasting, I can get a very niche audience of people that are interested in what I have to say and are interested in the topic of crowdfunding. So it's amazing if you want a niche audience to start a podcast around that. So down below, I'm going to be linking to this guide, and you can pre-order right now. It's coming out on December 25th, I believe. So if you want to support me, you want to pre-order it, and also if you're interested in starting your own podcast, you've seen the success of mine or others, and you want to start your own, this guide is a no-brainer. It's going to get you up to date on the best practices. It's also going to take you through some of the other success stories, people out there besides myself who are earning an income from podcasting. So again, that link is in the description down below. But my name is Salvador Brigman. Thank you so much. I hope you dive into some of the other YouTube videos I have out there on crowdfunding, marketing, Kickstarter. I have a lot of educational content out there. So I'd love it if you could dive into some of the other videos in my channel and sort of get started there. But finally, if you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on notifications. You have to hit like the little bell symbol, and then you'll get a notification every single time I come out with a new video. Again, my name is Sal, and I'll see you next time.